right, it's been a few years since I've shown anybody around the retro room, so I want to do a quick tour here. So as we walk in, I've got a bunch of these old Dragon's Lair 3D action figures, some Tron stuff. Down here is our wedding invitation. But anyway, into the interesting stuff. So we start here with so that's a 1976 Quasar black and white TV. This was given to me by my friend Nick, and he pulled this out of his, I want to say his boss's office, something like that. Anyway, so it pairs perfectly to an Atari Super Pong, which is down here. This TV stand is something that I actually found on the curbside. Somebody was throwing it away, so I thought that would be perfect. It looks a lot dustier than it is. It's just kind of old. All right, so moving on, we have a 1979. Oh, there's a better view of it over here. That is a 1979 Sony Trinitron 20-inch TV. Works perfectly. Got this for free off of Facebook Marketplace. It has the old, turn clunk knobs on there. Topped with a Sanyo beta cord. I repaired this one. This one had a bunch of really dry rotted belts in it. Replaced those. It works perfectly. Topped on that by an Atari Video Music, which is a really cool piece that you connect your audio source to, and it displays images on the screen. This is 1977, 78, something like that. Very cool, very interesting piece. I love turning that on while I listen to music up here. Then we go down into, so connected to this TV, we've got my Odyssey 2 and an Atari 5200. But we'll go into here and look. We've got an Atari 2600. This is a one of the 6-switch ones. We've got an Intellivision over here, and back behind it, you can probably see, is the voice module. Down below is a ColecoVision. I've got a couple of different controllers for that, plus one of the sports controllers. All this stuff works. There's a picture of me and Lisa right after we met in Virginia Beach. Well, we didn't meet in Virginia Beach. We were in Virginia Beach in this picture, but anyway, whatever. So moving on, I have a, let's see, what is this? This is a Samsung. Oh yeah. So I found this one. I found this TV, again, curbside on a trash day. Somebody was throwing it away. Thing works perfectly. Beautiful picture. I have this one connected to a CED player. So this is a realistic CED player. If you've never seen a CED before, it's actually kind of cool. So the movies are stored on, basically it looks like a vinyl disc inside of these plastic caddies, and you put it in, and all the way in. I'm not going to do it right now. It clicks. You take this out, and the disc stays in the player, and it plays. I would say it's on par with a VHS. It's just a really cool piece of dead media. So then below that we have an Atari 130XE. So this isn't just any Atari 130XE. This is my wife Lisa's, that she grew up with. So this is the system that her and her family played with a working disk drive. So that all works perfectly. Inside of here we have an Atari 7800 and an Atari 400. Again, both of those work. In there is all of the discs for the Atari 130XE. Up on top, so this is a boombox stereo system that has a cassette player and a CRT TV in it, and radio, a radio receiver, FM, AM, FM. I listen to this. This is what I listen to music on. I actually bought this from the CD 101 auction as they were closing down and auctioning all the stuff off in the building. Topped by this, I have a bunch of what is this, New Wave Arcade or something like that, the little mini versions of arcade system, of arcade cabinets. I have a Food Fight in the basement. I have a Dragon's Lair in the basement. I used to have a Missile Command, and I don't have a Space Ace. But anyway, I thought these were all cool, so I have these. In the corner here, I have some of my favorite Genesis cartridges, some of my favorite Super Nintendo cartridges, Super Famicom, Game Gear, down at the bottom, NES, and Game Boy stuff. Then moving over here, I have a, this is a, so this is a Nintendo cart. So you put the NES on top of it, and controllers, and then games at the bottom. My friend Annabelle bought me this and brought it for me, and this is an awesome piece of my collection. On top of it, I have my NES. So this is my NES from when I was a kid. On top of that is the top loader NES. This came out after the Super Nintendo had already come out, and Nintendo was, trying to milk the last couple of bucks out of the NES before everybody moved on. Some games down here. Then moving on here, I have a, let's see, this is a JVC PVM. Another curb find. This one had the cord cut off of it, but I grabbed it and figured, you know what the heck, let's see if it works, and it does, and it has a beautiful picture. I'll probably do another video at some point and show the images on these when I have everything turned on. Everything in here does work. I will start with that. I guess I'll start with that halfway through, but whatever. Everything in here does work. So down here I have this is a twin Famicom. So this is the Japanese Nintendo, but it also has a built-in disk drive for the Famicom disk system, which I also have over here. So this is this is a Famicom, sits on top of a disk system. Both of these work. I have, that's F1 Race. Another one here. This is Castlevania on the original Famicom disk system. Then below that, I have the Sega Master System. I have a nice multi-cart in that one. I have the joystick, a few other things for that. So that is all on this system. And then moving over here. This is a Panasonic VHS CRT combo. Right now, nothing is actually hooked up to this one. This is just for watching VHS videos, even though I have this VHS, this VCR up here. This is for connecting like my SG-1000 or the NES top loader to it, because that only has RF. So I'm just using that for that. But what's basically, these are all going to be hooked up to this Trinitron over here. This is another 20-inch. But what I have, a couple of interesting things on this one. This is the VIS. So this is a really obscure video game system that was sold at Radio Shack. So, you know, not exactly the biggest market. It was made to compete with like the CDI and Sega CD and 3DO and stuff like that. If you've never heard of it, I don't blame you. So if you ever want to look it up, it's MD2500 Memorex Video Information System. There we go. All right, so below that, I have a TurboGrafx 16. And then below that, it's one of my favorite things in my collection, is the Pioneer Laser Active. So what this is a Laserdisc player that has the ability to play movie Laserdiscs, but then it also has this little spot right here where you can drop in what are called packs. So I have a Sega Genesis pack in this one right now, which lets you play Sega Genesis, Mega Drive, Sega CD, Mega CD, but it also lets you play Mega Laserdisc games. So these are things like Pyramid Patrol, and I have a bunch of other ones there. Basically, they're Laserdiscs that you can play at home on a video game system. They're not that great, but it's pretty wild to see. So really, really cool thing. This is a system I've really always wanted to have, and I finally have it. And then, actually we'll go up here. So here I have a couple of the other packs that go with it. So this is the top one is the PC Engine or TurboGrafx 16 version. And below that is the karaoke one. So there's a lot of different things you can play with this. Ridiculously expensive when it came out, so not a whole lot of people had them. They're a very, very cool system though. Then below that, we've got the Neo Geo AES. I have a multi-cart in there right now. So this was the way to play the arcade at home. You could play it in the arcade, but you could also buy these systems at home. They were very expensive. The games were hundreds and hundreds of dollars, even back in the early 90s. but it was really the only way to play the actual arcade system at home. All right, moving up, we have, I've got my Atari Jaguar here. Really awful system. I mean, anybody that tells you otherwise is lying. But I have this back here. So the Atari Jaguar CD. This one works. I actually bought the Jaguar and the CD from their original owner, a woman up in Northern Ohio, who was getting rid of it. And it's a really cool system. I mean, again, it's a cool system for what it is. Games are mid at best, but still an interesting piece of video game history. All right, moving on to this Trinitron. So you can see we're kind of moving chronologically through the video game history. So next up is the Super Graphics. This was an improved TurboGrafx, so it plays the same, well, I guess PC Engine. It was never released in America. It plays the PC Engine games, but it also plays like 7 or so Super Graphics games. So things like 1941, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, a few things like that. Very cool system. Again, graphics were better. I guess if you didn't know they were better, you probably wouldn't notice it, but still a cool system. This is what I typically will play my TurboGrafx and PC Engine stuff on. And over here is the Panasonic 3DO. I bought this in San Francisco the day it came out. I was on vacation. I had been saving up money for it. It was not cheap when it came out, but it was I was the only person I knew that had it, and I love it, and it still works great. Still play it to this day. Need for Speed on the 3DO is one of the coolest games I've ever played. All right, down here we have the Sega CD on below a Sega Genesis. So this is my Sega Genesis from when I was a kid. Again, if you don't know what the Genesis is, it's one of the biggest 16-bit systems that came out early 90s, late 80s. I think it came out in 89. Sega CD was the attachment for it. Competed directly against the Super Nintendo, which I have here. Again, my Super Nintendo from when I was a kid. Very cool system. Lots of cool games on that. Getting into the more common stuff that people are going to know about now. So, move over to here. We've got a small little 9-inch Sony Trinitron. Right now it's running Super Nintendo Junior. So this was very similar to the top loader NES. This came out late into the Super Nintendo's lifespan. I think the N64 had already come out at that time. So, it was, again, let's get a couple of people to buy some of these things, at a cheap price and get into the video game system, or get into the video game hobby, whatever. Over here is a Sega Master System Model 2. This was, again, very similar to this, released late in the system's lifespan to get a few people to buy it. Down here we have the JVC XI. This combines the Sega Genesis and the Sega CD into one. It was released by JVC. It's a really cool looking system. Again, this is showing me I need to probably dust some of this stuff, but anyway, neat system. Don't see these too often. They come with a Sega Genesis controller that is branded JVC, which is really cool. Down here is a TurboGrafx Duo. Sorry, again, I keep saying TurboGrafx. It's a PC Engine Duo. The card will go in there, or you can play CD games. This one, as all of my stuff is, it's all been recapped. So these are pretty notorious for having bad caps and not working. Down here is a PC Engine Core Graphics. This was a basic, very base model PC Engine system. Over here is a Sega CDX and a 32X on top of it with Action 52, for those of you who know. That's a fantastic game with 52 really well done, high quality games on it. Below that is a Neo Geo CD. I have the ODE on this one, so lots of games running off of an SD card. And then at the bottom, there we go, a CDI, stack of games. Again, what can you say about the CDI? It's kind of a meh system. All right, moving over. This is a Toshiba Blackstripe. This is a really cool CRT. Again, this was another found it on the side of the road kind of thing. On top of that, I have a Vectrex and the Shokan popcorn bucket from the Mortal Kombat 2 movie. In here I have the GameCube with the Game Boy Advance player, a PlayStation 1. Again, this is my PlayStation 1 that I got the day it came out when I was just going into college. Sega Saturn, got this on the day it came out also. I remember getting a call from my mom's friend who worked at a Toys R Us and was like, hey, we got the Saturn. And I was like, really? It's not supposed to come out? And he said, yeah, we do. So I went and got it. And then over here is an N64 with some controllers and stuff like that. I was never a big N64 fan, but you know, can't really have a collection without it. All right, moving over to here. This is a JVC TV. I bought this, well, actually, my mom bought me this TV the day that I moved out of her house. So this was 1998. So this TV has been with me for 28 years now. Still works, great TV, love it. I have this one hooked up to an Xbox 360. I have a PlayStation 2 Slim up here. I have my Dreamcast, an original Xbox. Oh, sorry, there it is. A Sony PSX, and if you don't know what this one is, this is a PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and DVR that was only released in Japan. It's very cool. This one works 100%, so you can play Japanese games on it, no problem. I run Free McBoot, so I can run US games on it as well. Then up top, I have an HD DVD. Again, play some of the old, the old failed media stuff, which obviously by the beta and the CED and everything, I love that kind of stuff. Then down here is a Samsung DVD player. Now this is something that I had never heard of at the time. But then I picked this up. This is a Nuon. So what this is it is a DVD player, but it is also a video game system. And I have a couple of games for it, Tempest 3000 and Ballistic. It's a really, really, really weird system. I have a controller for it also. Logitech released this controller. It's a DVD. It's as good of a system as you can imagine a DVD player could be. DVD player first, video game player second, instead of the other way around, which you would see for a lot of the other systems. So that is a quick trip around level 1 of the retro room. Next time I will go over all of the handhelds and we'll look at some of the other stuff that I have in here.